The Cowboys Report is currently getting its butt kicked on Rumble. Not only are we losing to our Giants channel, we're also losing to the Raiders Report as well in terms of followers, and that's pretty embarrassing for me. So help me out. Help me catch Marshall, our Giants host, and that loser Mitchell Renz, who hates Dak Prescott, the Raiders Report host as well. You go follow us on Rumble at rumble.com/CowboysTV, and you get free and uncensored videos. Oh, and you can play it in background on your phone, podcast style, which you can't really do on YouTube. So help us out, and you get free videos as well when you follow us at rumble.com/CowboysTV. You're watching the Dallas Cowboys Report by Chat Sports. I am Tom Downey. In today's video, as you could probably tell by the headline and the thumbnail, all about Robert Quinn. So Jason La Canfora reported, I think it was on Friday or Saturday, one of the 2 days, that Quinn wants to be traded from the Chicago Bears. He wants out. He doesn't want to be involved anymore in Chicago. And that has led to several different Cowboys fan sites, blogs, reporters, etc., from exploring and speculating on the idea. So we're going to do the exact same thing, because Quinn is among the top trade candidates, and he is a name that I think every Cowboys fan knows because he played for the Cowboys just a few seasons ago. Now, there's a lot of pros and cons involved here, which we'll dive into in depth. But first, the actual report from Jason La Canfora. Quote, "I continue to hear that Quinn wants out of Chicago, and who could blame him? And there are a host of interested teams. Bears brass has told everyone he ain't going anywhere, but they will keep asking, and that's not lost on the veteran defensive end." Now, in general, you need to be careful with Jason La Canfora. He does not bat close to 100%. There's a lot of times he's just wildly off base, but he was also the first one to peg last year the potential Russell Wilson trade. So it is at least worth mentioning. And it also makes sense logically, right? Robert Quinn is 32 years old. He is in the midst of his final window to maybe play at his peak form and go have success beyond just on the field for himself, but for his team and to play for a contender. So it is worth exploring as more and more Cowboys fans and reporters, etc., approach the idea. There are four main elements that we're going to discuss as part of today's show. Number one, is Robert Quinn good? And this works for any trade, but we're focused on Quinn today. What is the cost to acquire a player like Quinn? What is the cost of the contract? And does he fill a fit and or a need? Now, we also have to mention this off the top because the Cowboys don't do anything, right? They've been one of the most boringest offseasons in NFL history as far as I'm concerned. The Cowboys like their guys. That's why they don't need to go sign free agents or make trades, because they like their guys. Does Quinn count in that group? Because he was once a Cowboys guy, the trade way back when, which we will revisit here in a little bit. So maybe the Cowboys could make an exception for Quinn. Now, if you were Stephen Jones and Jerry Jones and Dan Quinn and Will McClay, etc., would you go trade for Robert Quinn? I'm going to make this question the pinned comment on today's video because I want to hear your opinions in the comments section. Why for yes, you trade for Quinn, and for no, you would not? The first element, is Robert Quinn good? Oh yeah, big time. He's a good football player. His 2021 campaign, under the radar, by the way, was fantastic for a not that good Chicago Bears organization. 49 tackles, 18.5 sacks, 17 tackles for loss, and 4 forced fumbles. Now, Quinn is not an elite run stopper by any stretch of the imagination. He does tend to chase the sacks, and that's fine. That's his role and his job, and he does it really well. That production by Quinn was way better than his previous 3 years. 2020, his first year with the Bears, had an apparent foot injury, did not play very well, and I think there were some, oh God, what did we get ourselves into from the Bears front? But then he played great last year. And that 2019 campaign was with your Dallas Cowboys. 11.5 sacks, 13 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles. Quinn has kind of had down year, great year. Down year, great year, and almost to the extremes on all of those. Horrible in 2020, elite in 2021, bad in 2018, and then good with the Cowboys in 2019. Now, because Robert Quinn once played for the Cowboys, you know what that means. It makes Robert Quinn a Cowboys legend. So have some fun for me in the comments section and go spam Cowboys legend in there right now. Now let's look at the trade cost here for Quinn. Step number 2. This is not the first time the Cowboys have been linked to a Quinn trade. They actually made one way back when, before that 2019 campaign. The Cowboys got Quinn for just a 6th-round pick. It was incredibly cheap for a player coming off a down year for a rebuilding organization. It was a massive win for the Cowboys because they flipped Quinn for that 6th-round pick, got an entire year of production, got either 3rd or 4th, can't remember which one it was, back in the comp pick process. That is playing the trade game correctly. Now, a trade right now for Quinn would be more expensive, and the trade that JLC mentioned as the potential cost was the Von Miller one. And his idea was the Bears aren't going to trade Quinn right now. At the deadline, he becomes the crown jewel of the trade assets out there. And he said that Quinn could go for more than Von Miller, a 2nd and a 3rd. That is a very heavy cost to pay. Now, Quinn is under contract, as we'll get into more in depth here in a little bit. And he is a little bit younger, I guess, than Von Miller, but not really by much at all, to the extent that it really doesn't matter either way as far as I'm concerned. He also doesn't have the same name recognition. So there's our first main issue, the potential cost in a trade for an organization that doesn't like to move premium picks, except in some rare exceptions. Now, we've got Cowboys videos for you here every single day on the channel. And if you've already subscribed, thank you so much. You help me feed my family, and my wife and newborn are very much appreciative of that fact. Even if the newborn can't indicate it, I know that she is. And when you subscribe, it's all free, by the way. Videos every single day. I know the offseason is kind of winding down. It's a bit of a quiet period until we get further into camp and the preseason. But we've still got Cowboys stuff to talk about. So if you haven't already, hit that big red button and subscribe right now. Let's move now to the cost of a contract. We have the details on that. Shout out Spotrack over the cap. Quinn's contract, if he is traded, the new team owes him $12.9 million this year, $14 million next year, and $13 million in 2024. There is no guaranteed money left for the new team in the event that they trade for Robert Quinn. It's a 3-year, $39.9 million deal. So in the event you trade for Quinn now or midseason and you go, you know what, we don't want to pay him $14 and $13 million next year, which isn't that much for an edge, by the way, you can cut him and have zero dead money, although you would not get a comp pick back in that sense because you can't get comp picks for players who were cut. Those numbers are noteworthy to me because the Cowboys were going to pay Randy Gregory more than that. They were fully prepared to pay Gregory $14 million per year, so not that much more, but it is more when you do the math and add everything up together at that standpoint. It's just a little bit more on a longer deal with more guaranteed, since there was no guaranteed left for Quinn. Now, if that initial cost concerns you of $12.9 million this year, which, by the way, the Cowboys can afford, they have all of the cap space available right now, relatively speaking, you could restructure Quinn and bring down his cap hit. This is just one example. You can get really creative with how much you pay him this year. You can bring it down to as low as like $2 to $4 million, actually probably more like $5 million, $4 to $5 million in that range. Not all of it gets restructured. You pay him $7.57 on your cap this year, about half of what you have available at this moment. $16.6 million in 2023 and $15.6 million in his final year. You could add void deals or void years to bring those numbers down even lower. It does add to the potential dead money hit. In this case, you'd still have to pay him on your cap around $4 to $5 million in 2023, which isn't that bad of a figure, because you're saving a decent amount this year and pushing money into the future when the cap continues to rise. So Quinn is affordable, but the Cowboys have always shown a hesitancy to pay players, and especially outside the organization guys, and Quinn probably doesn't count in that category. They don't want to spend big money because they want to have their books in the clear. That number is a bit higher than the Cowboys' self-imposed figure as to what they are willing to spend in the past. They could do it, but they might not choose to do so. So be honest with me in the comments section. It should be a low number for this question, by the way, if we're being honest with this organization. What is the % chance that you think the Cowboys go out and trade for Robert Quinn? Sound off in the comments right now. Now, those were some issues for the Cowboys. This next part is where I have issues, and it's the need level at the passer spot. You can never have too many, but you have DeMarcus Lawrence, Dorrance Armstrong, Sam Williams, Dante Fowler, Terrell Basham, Chauncey Golston, who are all fighting for 5 maximum, I think, roster spots if everyone is healthy. Now, Tank's making this team. The goal is to upgrade opposite him. Duh, right? The Cowboys, when they lost Randy Gregory, did pay Dorrance Armstrong, and he is not going anywhere this upcoming year. 3 tackles for loss, 5 sacks was a massive step forward. He doubled his career sack production, even though he did actually play more snaps than Gregory. There is reason to be excited about Armstrong, who is younger than some of the draft picks this year. He is a very young football player. The Cowboys have committed to him at least for this upcoming year. So he's on this roster. They also drafted Sam Williams in the 2nd round of this year's draft, and this is a Dan Quinn pick. Quinn wanted Williams really, really badly. So they want to utilize him and Dorrance Armstrong. In the event you add Robert Quinn, you are severely going to reduce your potential impact from Sam Williams and Dorrance Armstrong. Assuming everyone's healthy, one of those guys is defensive end 4, who isn't going to play that much if they are healthy. And do you want to have wasted a bunch of money on Dorrance Armstrong and have wasted a 2nd pick, at least for 1 year, on Sam Williams? I'm not sure that's a good idea for the Cowboys. There's also a bit of an under-the-radar player in Chauncey Golston, who didn't do much last year, I know, but he's a 3rd-round pick out of Iowa. At minimum, Golston's going to make this team. So those 3 players, Armstrong, Williams, Golston, and of course DeMarcus Lawrence, are roster locks. That is 4 edge rushers, which means Dante Fowler or Terrell Basham, if not both of them, ain't going to make this team. Now, Fowler has shown flashes of elite production, 8 sacks in 2017, or at least good production, right? 2019, 11.5 sacks. He's also been very inconsistent and has at times disappeared over his NFL career, and that is why the Cowboys have not guaranteed a roster spot for Dante Fowler. He has $1 million of his roughly $3 million due this year guaranteed. That is we think you're going to make the team. We are not promising you're going to make the team. We want you to, but if you struggle or don't adapt to the defense, we're just going to cut you. Terrell Basham, meanwhile, is firmly on the roster bubble this year because he brings you about 3.5 sacks every year. And that's valuable at edge number 4 to 5, but when you can save $1.75 million by cutting that player, it's pretty easy to say, yeah, we're going to go in a different direction. Sorry, Basham, we're going to cut you. And, before I forget, you have Micah Parsons on your team, too. And you want him, or at least I would assume the Cowboys do, to have some pass rush reps. Now, that could come as a blitzer, I know, but when you can have 13 sacks as a hybrid edge linebacker, you need to keep Parsons at that edge rusher spot at least some of the time. So between Parsons and Williams and Armstrong and Tank Lawrence, you've got a lot of bodies at defensive end. I don't think pass rusher, from the edge perspective, we can have a different conversation about the interior of the defensive line, is that big of a need right now for this organization. So I would not trade for Robert Quinn, not for the likely cost and the need level. Now, we can revisit that at the trade deadline, and we might in the event Tank Lawrence's foot gets hurt again, or he gets hurt again, which is would be a huge problem for this team. But right this second, I don't need Quinn. And yeah, it'd be nice to have more insurance policies for the cost involved. That's not what you pay for an insurance policy. So if you haven't already voted at the pinned comments of today's video, we're done with it today. We finished up the video. I appreciate everyone who made it all the way through. Head down to the pinned comment and cast your votes right now. It's Y for yes or N for no.